Good morning. My name is Patrick Allen, and I am an interviewer for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. And on this video camera is my wife, Mary, and this project is conducted through the Cincinnati-Hamilton County Public Library under the direction of Brian Powers. And today is December the 27th, 2023, excuse me, 2023, 2 days after Christmas. And we're here at the home of a Vietnam veteran, Dale Wagner, at 4814 Saul's Circle, Middletown, Ohio. First of all, let me thank you for doing this interview for us.
You're welcome.
Now, do you go by Dale or?
Dale.
Dale, okay. Dale, let's start out before we get into any of your military information. Tell us where you were born and when.
I was born in Miami Valley Hospital in Dayton, Ohio.
When?
September the 14th, 1949.
And what were your parents' names?
My father was Elvin L. Wagner, and my mother was Angeline Lucille Chamberlain Wagner.
Chamberlain was her maiden name?
Yes.
Where was your dad from? Where was he born?
He was born in Miamisburg, Ohio.
All right. And how about your mom, Angeline?
She was born in West Carrollton, Ohio.
Both of those are in Montgomery County, along with Dayton?
Yes.
Do you remember when your dad was born?
January the 4th, 1915.
Good memory. How about your mom?
Mom was born April the 1st, 1913.
Oh, so your dad robbed the cradle a little bit?
Yeah.
What'd your dad do? What kind of work?
Most of the time he sold furniture. It was Rathman and Troop Furniture here in Middletown, and then it was Troop Furniture. They bought Rathman out.
So how long did you live in the Dayton area when you were born, besides being born in the hospital there?
No. Mom and Dad lived in Middletown then, but they said Middletown Hospital I was a twin. I've got a twin brother.
All right.
And he lives in Springboro. And they said Middletown they would lose babies. On twins, they didn't have births with both of them surviving. So they went to Miami Valley Hospital because Mom and Dad wanted us to make it.
Yeah. The Dayton Hospital had a better reputation, a better outcome for twins.
Right.
All right. And what was your twins' name?
Dale and Gail.
Dale and Gail, okay.
I'm Dale Lynn and he's Gail Lee.
How old is Gail?
He's same age as I am, like
72?
74.
Oh, 74?
Yeah, we're 74 now.
Okay. Where does Gail live?
In Springboro.
Is he married?
Yes, he is.
Have kids?
Yes, 2 girls.
What's his wife's name?
His wife's is Debbie, and his one daughter is Beth Ann Wagner, and his other daughter is Lee. What is it? McCollum.
Lee McCollum?
Yes.
Okay. What does Gail do? Is he working or is he retired?
He's retired. He works at a golf course where you can play golf for free. But
what did he retire from?
He retired from General Motors.
All right, up in Dayton?
Yes.
Now, so your mom and dad lived here in Middletown. Did your mother work outside the home at all?
No.
And your dad, what'd you say he did?
He sold furniture. He was an interior decorator.
And he sold furniture for a company here in Middletown?
Yes.
Where'd they live here in Middletown?
We lived on Henry Street.
Okay. So he was He was too young for the First World War. Did he serve in the Second World War at all?
Yes, he did.
And what branch did he serve in?
He was in the Army.
Where did he serve?
He was in Battle of the Bulge in Europe.
Battle of the Bulge?
Yes.
Was he involved in D-Day or anything like that?
No, he was after D-Day. He did get a Purple Heart. I don't remember all the medals that he did get.
All right. Do you remember any other encounters that he had besides? Was he actually in the Bulge
Yes.
when the Germans attacked?
Yes. Because he was going through these, I forget what you call them, oh man, I can't remember. When they were going through these, they were like shrubs.
Okay, the underbrush?
Yes, and they were going through those, and he got, he was a mortarman, and a bullet come and it hit the detonator on the mortar.
Oh.
But it didn't set the mortar off, it just set the detonator off, and it blew up in his face.
Oh.
And he says, I'm blind. He says, and then he started rubbing his eyes, and I guess his eyelashes and everything burnt together. And then after he did that, then it was okay.
His eyes could open up?
Yeah.
Wow. So he was there all the time defending against the Germans?
Yes.
And did he ever talk to you about Patton coming in and helping them repel the Germans?
He did say he saw Patton one time, but I don't remember when or anything about that.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to Middletown School District, so.
Which grade school did you go to?
Jefferson.
Okay, and went there, did you go there for 8 years?
No. Sixth. I went to Jefferson first through sixth, and then we went to Roosevelt for 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then Middletown High School.
All right, so you were in the Middletown High School. When did you graduate?
In 1967.
So that was after Jerry Lucas had played basketball?
Yes. He graduated in 58, I believe it was.
All right. But I only mentioned that because they had great teams that were undefeated for like 70-some games, and
Right.
he ended up being an All-American at Ohio State and being a very successful pro basketball player. Did you know him at all?
Yes, I met him when we lived on Henry Street. A friend of his lived right back behind us, and Dad had a compost pile, and it was all full of worms. And Jerry was a fisherman, and they would come and get worms out of that pile to fish with.
Uh-huh. Good.
So I did know Jerry.
Good. So how many kids were in your high school graduating class? Ballpark.
There was 500 and something, I believe, and then with the night school class, I think it put us over 600.
Wow.
Now I'm not sure of the numbers, but I'm thinking that's what it was.
Well, back in those days, there was a lot of industry here in town, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Paper mills and Armco Steel was a big employer.
Yes, it was.
And things have changed certainly over the years.
Yeah.
So before you graduated, did you work at all during your school years? Did you have part-time jobs anywhere?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do?
I worked at a car wash on Verity Parkway, which is no longer there.
All right. Did you work there in the summers?
In the summers and during school year sometimes, not depending on the weather.
Did you engage in any extracurricular activities in high school? Did you play football or in the band or basketball or baseball?
I played in the band a little bit, not very long.
What'd you play?
Trombone.
You still have one?
No, I don't.
And what'd your brother do? Did he work also?
Yes, he worked at the car wash there too. We both did.
Good.
And then between high school and college, we went to school at Miami here in Middletown.
Miami University Oxford has a branch here in Middletown.
Right.
And that's where both you and Gail started?
Yes. And well, before that, in the summertime, they had a groundskeeper. They just built that in '66, and this was '67, so it was still new. We worked in the grounds to water the trees and mow grass and do all kinds of stuff like that in between high school and our starting school at college.
Well, did you start college in the fall after graduation, or did you lay out a year?
No, I started that year.
All right. How many years did you attend the branch?
We both flunked out, and we both went to work. Well, my brother went to work at a paper mill here in town, and I went to work at General Motors in Dayton.
Which plant did you work at?
Delco Moraine.
Where was Delco? Was that over on the west side? Or was that on the south side?
It was when you drove 75 north. It set on once you cross the Miami River. It set on the left-hand side. It was right there on the river.
All right. What did you do there?
I did a lot of stuff. I worked there for almost 32 years.
What did you do there when you flunked out of school and you went to work? What did you do?
I started building wheel cylinders for cars on the assembly line.
So how long did you work before Uncle Sam occupied your time?
I started on January of 1968 at General Motors, and I got drafted in September of 69. So I worked there about a year and a half, a little over.
How about your brother? Did he get drafted?
He has a lazy eye, and he partially blind, and they wouldn't accept him.
So he was 4F.
Yes.
Where did you go when you were drafted? Where did you go to sign up? Dayton or Cincinnati?
Here in Middletown.
Middletown?
Yes.
All right. And
but they put us in a bus and then took us to Cincinnati.
And from Cincinnati, where did you go?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
How long were you at Fort Dix?
From September until
November? Mid-October?
No, because I got out of basic training and then went to my MOS, where I learned my MOS, which was Morse code, which I never did use. And then from there, I went to Fort Dix was then I went into Vietnam. I had my orders to go to Vietnam.
Tell me a little bit about basic training. What did you go through there?
Just the typical stuff. It was, they told you what to do, when to get up, when to do everything.
You did a lot of marching and hiking.
Yes.
What was your typical day time-wise? What time did they get you up in the morning? What time were you able to go to bed at night?
They would get you up early. I don't remember what time it was, 4 or 5 o'clock,
Okay.
depending on what you were doing. And first thing I do is eat. I went into the service, I weighed 119 pounds. And when I got out of basic training, I weighed 158 pounds.
Holy cow. They fed you well.
I was starved all the time. I would go to, they had milk machines, and I would just stand there, fill it, drink it, fill it, drink it, and then put it on my tray and then go sit down and eat. Because they were always in a hurry. You know, you had to hurry up and eat in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, after basic, did you have time to come back home for leave before they sent you overseas?
Right. I made it home on Christmas.
How did you get home? Bus, train, car?
Plane.
Plane?
Yes.
Where'd you fly into? Cincinnati?
Yes.
How long were you able to stay home over the holiday? You have a week's leave? Or
I
10 days?
think it was a week.
Okay. Then how'd you get back to Fort Dix?
Flew back.
So you said your MOS, for somebody listening to this or watching this 50 years down the road, what's an MOS?
An MOS is your job. That's the description of your job.
Okay.
That you had to do.
What your assignment was, right?
Right.
Now, what unit were you in when you left Fort Dix?
When I went to Vietnam,
Yeah.
uh,
Were you in the 501st Signal Battalion?
yeah. Well, for a little while, we didn't have any description. You know, when you're in transit, there's no, address. I could write home, but I didn't have a return address to put on my letters and stuff. So it was just, you were in transit. But my first address in Vietnam was 501st Signal Battalion.
Company A?
Yes.
Where did you fly from in the States to get over to Vietnam?
McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. It was right next to Fort Dix.
So did you have a layover in California or Hawaii or Guam or anywhere?
We had a stop. I don't think we stopped in California. I think we stopped in Hawaii.
Okay. Did you fly strictly on a military plane, or was it a commercial plane?
It was commercial airline.
Were there other soldiers on board with you?
It was all soldiers.
right.
All of us were going to Vietnam.
Do you know what kind of a plane it was? Was it TWA or what airline?
I don't remember.
Did you have any friends with you on that flight? Did you have any kids from Middletown or guys you'd become close with in New Jersey?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember people. I think there was a couple of us that were from basic training and our MOS training.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a map here.
I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
When I did get to Vietnam and got in my unit, there was 3 of us from Middletown that were together there while we were serving.
Okay.
And Roger Dwyer was one of them. His brother was Russell Dwyer, who was a police chief in Middletown. And Tom Smith, and I don't remember what happened to Tom. I remember seeing him a couple times after we come home from Vietnam, but I lost, I don't know whatever happened to him.
How long were you in Vietnam before you ran into these three guys?
Tom Smith right away. Dwyer was my CO of my unit over there.
All right, commanding officer?
Yes, and he came in a little bit later. But when I was in Nam, I wanted Dad to send me a newspaper. So he went to the Journal and they'd send us Middletown journals every day, but I would get them in stacks of like 5, you know, you wouldn't get them every day.
Sure.
But it was cool to read that and see about Middletown, what was going on.
Yeah, just keep up to date on what's happening at home.
Right. And then Tom and Roger I'd hand them down to those guys where they could read them too.
Uh-huh. Now, I've got a map here of Vietnam, and first of all, they don't need to see me, but Mary, can you see this okay?
Do I want the whole map or just that little corner? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember where you landed in Vietnam?
It was down here south somewhere. Long Bend, I think it was, but I don't see it on here.
Well, after you landed, how soon did you get transported to your destination?
It took about 30 days, because that's when they were sending all the first cav and all the units were getting sent back home, but they didn't send them home. They just sent them to different units.
All right.
So it took a while to get up to my unit.
Oh, so where did you end up going from your landing location?
I went to I think it was no, it was Da Nang. We landed in Da Nang, and then they helicoptered us to Camp Evans, which is, I don't see Camp Evans. It had to be right in here. And they sent us there for a week training, and so altogether it was a month before I got to my unit.
So where else were you besides Camp Evans?
I was at Dong Han, and then Phu Bai, there was a fire base there, and then I was on some other fire bases here in this high corps, and I don't remember the names of them. What our unit did was set up communications for people that come into our area, for the Marines, the different units, anybody that come into the 101st area, we set commo up for them, put like landlines and voice or FM radio. All that was done through the 101st. So
Do you remember where you flew home from?
out of Da Nang. I come home on emergency leave.
All right, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So you talked about fire base. Would you tell somebody viewing this what you mean by a fire base?
A fire base is a place where they would have weapons. They would they have artillery, and anybody that was in the field that needed support, those fire bases would give it to them.
Okay. So, did you have any jungle training before you got to Vietnam?
Some, not a whole lot. We had more when we were over there. That in that week before, we had more jungle training there than we did here in the States.
Some of the fellows have told me that they went down to the Philippines for a week or 10 days of jungle training, but you didn't have that.
No.
You had on-the-job training.
Yes.
So, where did you learn your abilities in communications? Was that at Fort Dix, or was
yes,
that
at Fort Dix?
And you talked about Morse code, but you didn't use it.
Right.
What was the reason why they taught you Morse code, but you didn't have any opportunity to use it?
I have no idea. That was the Army's way.
Okay, all right. So, how did you get to your first fire base? How did you get there? By
Helicopter.
By helicopter.
Right.
And do you remember what type of helicopter it was?
It was a Huey.
And how many other soldiers were on board with you?
I'd say 4 of us, because we had equipment too we had to take with us, so antennas, stuff like that.
On the way up to your base, did you have any enemy shooting at you from the ground?
No.
So when you got to your fire base, were you a replacement unit, or were you brand new unit for that area?
Sometimes replacement, sometimes we'd set up new. It just depends.
How was that base protected? Did you, as far as your perimeter, how was that?
When it was new,
Yeah.
we didn't have much protection when we set them up in the beginning.
Well, later on, when you set them up, did you already have? Did you have any fencing of any kind, or barricades to keep the VC out of your fire base?
Right. Yes. After they were up for a while. In fact, when we'd first go there, we just had a unit that was protecting us. And
now I understand from other guys that the daytime activity was, unless you were out on reconnaissance or patrol or something, daytime activity was relatively quiet, but the VC would try to come in at night.
right. We owned the country in the daytime, they owned it at night.
Did you experience any attacks at night where you were stationed?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It was like the first week I got in country in May. No, wait a minute. March the 23rd, something like that. And it took me about a month to get to my unit. So the first week in May, we had a rocket hit, and it hit our oil drums. And it hit a Huey helicopter, and it went on all night long. Those 55-gallon drums were blowing up. But I didn't realize that that's what was wrong, or what was happening. It scared me to death. I still to this day, I get anxious from it. And it kept blowing up all night long. And I was in a bunker, and you could see the flashes, but I didn't realize what was going on.
Well, you're only 20 years old at the time, aren't you?
Right.
Had you ever been out of Ohio before you were drafted and went over to New Jersey?
Yes.
Had you ever been out of the country before they flew you to Vietnam?
No, that was a first. Well, I did go to Canada
All right.
when we were kids.
All right. Did you have any near misses for yourself where you almost were injured during any of these nighttime raids?
No, I was pretty lucky there.
Well, so in the average week, 7 nights, how many nights would the enemy try to infiltrate your base? Every night or 3 nights a week, or what was it?
It wasn't that often.
Okay.
I don't remember how often it was, but
Did you ever have to take part in defending against the enemy trying to infiltrate the camp?
yeah, they put us on alert sometimes, even our base camp, that you had to stay up, and I don't know if they had people that they saw out there.
But did you ever have to get a weapon and help defend the camp?
No.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit about your job of stringing wires. Were you stringing wires in an area that was already secured by the Army or the Marines? Or were you out in front of the group?
No, it was somebody had already been in the area when we went in there.
Okay, so it was relatively safe, so to speak, for you to go
Right.
into the area.
Right.
And stringing the wire, is this on the ground or is this overhead through the jungle trees?
Well, the FM voice was over the air. There wasn't any wires.
Okay.
But we did have people in our unit that did put wires down, but I wasn't in on that.
Mm-hmm. You want this?
Yeah.
Yeah. He bumped his elbow and he's on blood.
Yeah, I'm on blood thinners and I get,
There you go.
that's really great, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You need some Band-Aids?
He'll be, if you just keep that on.
He'll be all right.
Fine. I don't think you really hit that elbow.
Yeah,
Get that covered up because you don't want to get blood on your
yeah.
couch. Okay. Brian will edit me out.
There was a Tet offensive there in South Korea. Were you there before, during, or after the Tet offensive?
After. Ted, I think, was 68.
Right. Did you see any remnants of that?
Yeah, Way was all shot up.
What do you mean by that?
You could see where bullet damage and hitting walls and buildings and
Craters, mortar craters, and
yeah, but like if the roads were fixed by then, but
Okay.
you could tell some craters were. It depended on where they were.
mm-hmm. But you could see where there were patches and repairs. And all that.
Right.
Now you mentioned your commanding officer. Who was that?
Russell Dwyer?
Now, was he your commanding officer all the time you were there?
Roger Dwyer. No, he come in later.
Who was your commanding officer at the outset?
Be careful.
When I left, it was Dwyer. The first one, I don't remember who was preceded him.
Okay.
The reason I knew Roger was because he was from Middletown. I probably wouldn't have known who he was if it wasn't for that.
Well, did your Company A have any casualties while you were over there?
I believe we had one casualty while I was in Vietnam.
While you were there what,
A year.
during that year's time, did you have any time for R&R anywhere out of country?
I did. I went to Australia.
How
to
long were
Sydney.
you there?
A week. And my brother flew from here and met me in Sydney.
Well, that had to be pretty exciting for you, wasn't it?
It was.
So you were there a week?
Yes.
How did you get there, by plane?
Yes.
And
Commercial airline.
back to base by plane?
Yes.
How often did you have helicopter rides?
When I first got over there, it was more often, because once I started running the talk, I worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
So that I didn't have any duties or like KP duty or guard duty, anything like that, because I worked in that talk for 7 days a week.
Well, did you have to operate communications as well as setting it up?
No. All I did was keep the radios running and make sure that the secure voice was set up every day. Because we had a little box that we had to set the settings on there.
Was most of the communication in code, or was it in regular language?
Voice, yes.
You had 12 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yes.
What'd you do the other 12 hours? Sleep and sleep? Well, you gained a lot of weight out of basic. How about when you were in Vietnam? Did you lose weight over there?
Yeah, a little bit. I believe I weighed 155 when I got out.
Okay.
So it was just a few pounds, but
So
I was starving when I went in. Well, I didn't weigh anything. I was a little kid when I went in.
yeah.
And all that exercise and marching and going, it seemed like Fort New Jersey was nothing but sand, because every trail that we marched on was sand. And it was like, you know, dragging through sand all the time.
Uh-huh. Oh shoot! I had a thought. How were the accommodations over there in Vietnam? Like your sleeping accommodations? Were you in a building? Or
Yes,
were you...
yes. We're in a hooch. We called them hooches. It had a metal roof. It had corrugated metal roof. And
What were the sides?
plywood, and then half of it was screens.
Did you have sandbags around them at all?
Yes,
Up to the screen?
yes.
And how many guys would be in a hooch?
8.
And what were you sleeping on?
I had a mattress and a springs. Most everybody else just had cots.
Okay. Why were you the one with the mattress and spring?
I just lucked out. I guess somebody went home and I was there to get his mattress and springs.
Well, how was the food over there?
Oh, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good. And then sometimes I was stationed with Special Forces, and they give us sea rations to have. But those guys from Special Forces, they had their own cooks. So we had to pay, I don't know, it wasn't very much money, but and they would feed us, so we didn't use our sea rations, and it was funny, but we ate pretty good then.
Yeah, good. And either in the base camp or out in the landing zones, did you have Vietnamese citizens working in camps?
When I first got the 101st, We didn't. We had to do all that stuff ourselves, but later on they started hiring people to clean up our messes and
Clean up your hooch?
no, they didn't clean up our hooches.
Honey, it's a big place right on this side of your elbow. No, there.
Okay. How about, some of the guys said that they would have Vietnamese guys cutting their hair.
Oh yeah, at the PX they had Vietnamese barbers and stuff like that.
And sometimes you'd have a Vietnamese person maybe working in the mess hall or cutting hair, doing something, and then at nighttime they were the enemy. Did you experience any of that?
I never did. I heard about it, but I never saw any myself.
Good, good. While you were there, did you have any USO entertainers come in?
Yeah, Bob Hope.
Oh, Bob Hope came in. You got to see Bob.
Yeah, and
You remember where you were when that?
yeah, it was at Camp Eagle.
Camp
Eagle.
Eagle.
Yeah.
How was that?
I bought a 35 millimeter camera. I had all kinds of pictures of Bob Hope, Johnny Bench, everybody that was on there. And when I come home on emergency leave, somebody else had those pictures, and I never did get them back.
Oh, shoot.
Oh,
Shoot. So, how many times did Hope come over there? Just the one time?
Yes. Well, I just saw him that one
Once.
time.
Okay.
It was around Christmas in 1970.
So, usually you travel around with a couple of good-looking women. Do you maybe have
Yeah.
some movie star with him?
Yeah, I think it was Anne Margaret.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly, I think it was Anne Margaret.
And you say Johnny Bench was with him?
Yes.
Good. So it was probably pretty exciting for you.
Yeah.
You know how long he was there? Was it just a 1 day or 2 days?
I think they just flew in, landed, did the show, and bang, right back
Right
out.
back out. Where were you when you got notified that you said you came home on an emergency leave?
Yes.
What was the circumstances of that?
Dad had cancer,
Okay.
and they said that he wasn't going to be around much longer, and so they brought me home on emergency leave.
Were you able to stay home or you just had to go back?
My CO from Vietnam, when I got the message that I was coming home on emergency leave, I had just spent it was either 1 day before my year was up or 1 day over my year. And I extended for 23 days so I could get that early out.
Uh-huh.
And so my CO told me when I was leaving, he says, if you have any problems, just tell them to send you back here. I'll turn you around and fly you right back home. But I didn't. On my extension, they give me a 30-day emergency leave, and that put me over my time to serve in Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
And Dad was well enough, Mom and Dad, we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and stayed in a motel, and I separated from there, from Fort Dix. So it was simple. It took time, but I separated from Fort Dix with Mom and Dad both with me.
Well, how long did Dad stay with you then? How many months or years?
He died in March. It was about, when I got home from emergency leave, it was about a year after that when he passed.
Okay. You died of cancer, what, lungs or
Pancreatic?
pancreatic cancer? Well, yeah, that's bad. Yeah. Is your mom still with you?
No, she passed away in 2006.
Okay. Your brother's still living, right?
Yes,
And did I ask you where he's living?
yes, Springboro, Ohio.
Springboro, okay. What did you do after you separated from the Army?
Went back to work at General Motors.
Did they hold the same job for you?
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was worked on the assembly line, and then they had a layoff or something. I got cut back to a stock chaser, and finally, in 1977, I got an apprenticeship as a welder. So I was a maintenance welder for the rest of my time
Okay.
at GM.
And did you spend all that time there at Delco Marine?
Yes.
When did you retire from Delco Marine?
In 1999.
Now, did that become the truck and bus assembly?
No, no. We were the brake division, they used to call us.
Okay.
We did the brakes, we did master cylinders, transmission clutch bands, engine bearings, and brake fluid. We had 500 gallons of brake fluid tanks, and we used to have to repair them things because they were aluminum, and all that weight, and putting them on a forklift, it would just crack them and they would leak.
Oh.
We did a lot of work on stuff like that.
So did you work regular 8-hour shift, or did you do overtime? Or
Yeah, we worked a lot of overtime.
Did you? How was your pay back in those days?
It was good pay.
$25 an hour?
When I got out, yeah, it was about that. When I started, it was like $6.
Okay.
$6 and something an hour.
Okay, and did you get time and a half overtime?
Yeah, time and a half.
How about holidays? Did you work holidays and
Yeah.
get double or triple?
There was one day a year, I think it was like the 4th of July or something. If you worked that day, you got 4 days pay for working one day.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't know if the UAW had it on their contract or something. I don't remember how we got it, but that one day a year, if you had to work that, you got 4 days pay.
Where were you living when you were working there at Delco Marine?
I was living in Middletown. I lived at on Fulton Avenue, Fulton Lane.
Did you drive yourself, or did you have a carpool, or?
We drove ourselves, and then we had carpools. We did it different ways. My brother and I rode on for a while together, and then we started getting more people to ride with us.
Did your brother work in the same area that you did?
Yes.
That was pretty nice.
Yes.
I forgot to ask you, what was your rank when you separated from the Army?
A specialist, Spec 4.
What was your rate of pay then?
I'm thinking it was like around $400 a month. That was combat pay and all that other stuff that you got. Because when I went in, I was making like, when I got drafted, I was making $99 a month.
Okay.
And then then the combat paying in rank and stuff. I think it was right around $400 a month.
Did you send any of that home, or did you?
Yes.
All right. We haven't talked about Brenda. Your wife is Brenda.
Right.
And what was her maiden name?
Brenda Fox.
Fox?
Yes.
How'd you meet Brenda?
I met her, first time I saw her was in a drive-in.
A drive-in theater or drive-in
drive-in
restaurant?
theater.
Uh-huh. Here in Middletown?
Yes.
How did you come to meet her? She in a car next to you, or did you see her at a concession? Or?
Near us. And she was with a girl that I graduated with. And that's about how it worked.
Well, how soon did you start dating her?
Pretty soon.
And when did you guys get married?
We got married on September the 2nd, 1972.
So you'd been back home for about a year?
Yeah.
And did you communicate while you were over in Vietnam with her, and she with you?
No, I didn't. I met her after I come home.
Okay. So did you have any girlfriend in high school?
I did.
Did you communicate with her when you were overseas?
Yes.
But
I got a Dear John letter while I was over there.
okay, okay, all right.
Except it was Dale.
So then you come back home and you're with somebody and you go to the drive-in movie and you see her and then you start dating her. And when did you get married?
September the 2nd, 1972.
Right. Where did you get married? You're in town?
United Methodist Church on Oxford State Road.
Were you raised in any particular religion?
Yeah, we were Presbyterian.
Okay. And while you were overseas, did they have religious services at camps?
Yes.
Did you go to those?
Sometimes. When I was working those 7 days, I didn't.
Okay.
I was thinking more about sleep than I was.
Right, right. So when you came back home, did you start going back to church again? Or was it a while before you did that?
Yeah, it was a while before I started doing that.
Was Brenda a member of that same church? Was she Presbyterian?
No. Yeah, I think she did join the... I'm not sure.
Well, she was with us here for a while, but oh, she's sitting there.
Were you? Did you join the Presbyterian church?
After we were married.
Okay.
Yes, she did join the Presbyterian church after we were married.
All right. Now, you had a couple of kids, you and Brenda,
Yes.
and tell me about that. What's the name and age of your oldest? Tara?
Tara, she's
45 or 6?
45? 45 years old.
And when did you have Tara? She's 45, you had her...
January the 16th, 1978.
And you had a son?
Yeah, Joseph, Joe.
And he was 2 or 3 years later?
He was August the 7th, 1980.
You do better at that than I do. Those the only 2 children?
Yes.
And what's Tara's, Tara married?
Yes, she is.
What's her last name?
Gardner.
Where's Tara live?
She lives in Franklin.
Franklin, Ohio?
Yes.
She have children?
Yes.
How many children does Tara have?
She has two. She has Allison and Mason. Allison's the oldest, and Mason is the youngest.
Does Tara work outside the home?
Yes, she works at the Middletown courts system.
In the municipal court system?
Mm-hmm.
I used to know one of their judges. Her husband is who?
Scott Gardner.
What does Scott do?
He works computers for the city of Middletown's police department.
Where's Joe live? Where's your son live?
He lives in Morrow, Ohio.
And is Joe married?
Yes, he is.
What's his wife's name?
Chelsea?
Do they have children?
No.
What's Joe do?
He's a contractor at Cliffs, which was AK, which was
Started out as Armco,
Armco,
aka Armco Kawasaki, and now it's Cleveland Cliffs.
Yes.
And it's a steel mill.
Yes.
It's been here in town for well over 100 years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
How about his wife, Chelsea? Did she work outside the home?
Yes.
What did she do?
She sells clothing and, do you know? Retail, yeah.
Okay. For a big box company or some retail store?
She just changed jobs. I don't remember what company she works for right now.
All right. You served an apprenticeship in welding?
Yes.
Where did you do that?
At Delco Marine.
How long was that apprenticeship?
7,280 hours, I believe it was.
To be precise, huh?
Yeah, we had to keep track of all that, the hours and how many hours we had at certain welding processes.
So then after your apprenticeship, you became a certified welder?
A welder.
Welder.
It took me a little while. Certifications are funny things. You just, you have to pass a test that the company sets up. So a certification really doesn't mean a whole lot, because it's set up in a special way, and you have to follow the rules to get the certification.
Okay, the company sets the rules and for you to become certified?
Right.
And did you become certified?
Yes.
Did that result in an increase in your pay?
No, just more work.
All right, did Brenda, while you were married, did Brenda work outside the home?
Yes, she did.
What did she do?
She worked at Ohio Bell in the business office.
Okay, and did she do that while you had children at home, or did she wait till after they were out of the home?
Did you hear that? When you worked at Ohio Bell, we didn't have any kids, right?
All right. After the kids were out of the house, did she work anywhere?
Yes.
Back at Ohio Bell?
No, she went to work at a doctor's office. What?
Middletown Medical.
Middletown Medical.
Good.
She worked there.
Okay. On your awards and medals from the military, you tell me that you got the National Defense Service Medal,
Yes.
and you got a Vietnam Service Medal,
Yes.
a Vietnam Campaign Medal.
Yeah.
Any other awards or designations that you can think of?
Not that I can think of.
So you separated April the 22nd,
Yes.
1971.
Yes.
And you were a Spec 4.
Yes.
Did you serve in the reserves at all after that?
No. Well, I didn't serve. You have so long that you have to, a 6-year obligation. So they put you in that category as, but I didn't go to any meetings or anything like that.
Okay. There weren't any requirements, but if they needed you for those 6 years, you had to be available.
Right.
Mary, you've been listening to this. Is there anything you want to ask Dale about?
Was it strange for you to be separated from your twin?
No, because I had it in my mind that we're going to have to. There's nothing I can do about it.
Okay.
Because, but it was good to see him when he came to Australia. That was very, very emotional, you know, because I hadn't seen him for.
And you're close.
Yeah.
You know, more so even than other brothers and sisters.
Brenda,
Yes.
come on over here. Let the camera see what Brenda Wagner looks like. Mary, put her on
Okay.
the camera.
Okay. Oh, neat. Now I've got sort of both of them.
Now, Brenda, you've been listening to this. Is there anything, first of all, do you have any corrections? Has he told us anything that isn't accurate? Is there anything that,
Honey, keep that arm away.
is there anything you want to add that we haven't talked about? Anything?
You know, he's really never talked about it with me.
Oh,
And it's just been the last few months that he's opened up any at all. So I don't really know what it was like for him when he was there.
Good. So you're learning some new stuff today yourself.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Well, we didn't know each other when.
Yeah, I didn't know him then. So
Well, you know, I met him through the group here in Middletown, and I've enjoyed knowing all these fellas. Dale, is there anything we haven't talked about that might be of interest to somebody 5 years from now or 10 years from now?
Well, I'd like to say that being in that Veteran Social Command has meant a lot to me.
That's the volunteer group in Middletown.
Yes.
Now they moved to Trenton,
Yes.
and it's just a social group. There's no dues or fees or anything else, is there?
Nothing.
And that's how I got to know you.
Yes.
If you had the opportunity to do your Vietnam experience again, would you do that, or would you try to avoid that?
I don't know. I don't know if I would or not. I would like to go back to see what it looks like now, but to serve again,
It'd be a tough call, wouldn't it?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, let me, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing this interview, Dale.